The film takes place in a future where genetic engineering has stopped human aging at 25 years old. However, there is a catch. Once a person turns 25, a glowing green digital clock appears on their forearm, and it starts counting down from exactly 1 year. When that clock reaches zero, the person dies instantly. This is called timing out. To survive, people must earn, steal, or buy more time, because time has completely replaced money as the currency of society. Everything costs time, costs 2 hours, rent costs days. People can transfer time from one arm to another simply by grabbing hands, almost like a handshake. Society is divided into in the poor zone, called Dayton. People usually live day to day, sometimes with only 24 hours on their clock, running through the streets to get to work before they die. In the wealthy zone, New Greenwich, the rich have accumulated centuries or even thousands of years and live in complete safety and luxury, never worrying about dying. The system openly admits that there is enough time for everyone to live forever, but prices are kept deliberately high in the poor zones. This keeps the population under control and keeps the poor working and dying so that the rich can live forever. This is really the central message of the film. It's a metaphor for capitalism and wealth inequality. The story follows Will Salas, Justin Timberlake, a young factory worker who lives in Dayton with his mother, Rachel Salas. Because nobody ages past 25, Rachel looks exactly the same age as her son, which is a strange but powerful visual detail in the film. Mothers and children, or even grandparents, all look like they are in their 20s. We see Will's daily struggle. He wakes up with only about a day or two of time left, works in a factory, and constantly has to calculate every expense, because running out of time literally means dying on the spot. One night in a bar, Will notices a man who clearly doesn't belong in Dayton. This man, Henry Hamilton, Matt Bomer, has over a century of time on his clock, which makes him a target. A gang called the Mint Men, led by a man named Fortis, tries to rob him. Will steps in and saves Henry from the gang. They go to a hideout together, and Henry explains something important. He is actually 15 years old, even though he looks 25. He tells Will that he is tired of living. He has seen how the system really works, and he no longer wants to be part of it. He explains that the wealthy manipulate the price of time specifically to keep the poor dying young, since if everyone had unlimited time, the whole hierarchy of power would collapse. While Will is asleep, Henry transfers his entire remaining time, more than a century, onto Will's arm. Then, as the sun rises, Henry lets his own clock run out and dies. This is essentially a suicide, but also a symbolic act. He passes his time to someone he believes deserves a chance at a real life. This is the first major plot twist. Will wakes up with over 100 years suddenly on his clock, transforming him from someone about to die into one of the richest people in Dayton. Because Henry's body is found and his time is gone, the authorities, called timekeepers, essentially a futuristic police force, assume Will robbed and killed him. This makes Will an immediate suspect for murder, even though it isn't true. Meanwhile, one of the most emotional scenes of the film happens. Will's mother, Rachel, is on a bus home from work. The bus fare unexpectedly increases, a subtle way the system exploits the poor, and she doesn't have enough time to pay for the ride. She decides to run home instead, racing against her own countdown. Will, now with his new fortune of time, rushes to meet her and even tries to transfer some of his time to her from a distance, but he isn't fast enough. Rachel isn't fast enough. Rachel's clock reaches zero just seconds before they reach each other, and she collapses and dies right in front of him, in his arms, in the middle of the street. This is one of the most powerful and tragic scenes in the movie, and it becomes Will's motivation for everything that follows. Devastated and angry, Will decides to leave Dayton and travel to New Greenwich, the zone of the ultra-wealthy, using the fortune Henry gave him. His goal is to infiltrate high society, understand how the system truly works, and eventually take revenge against it. There, he meets Philip Weiss, Vincent Kartheiser, one of the most powerful time lenders, essentially a banker in the country, and daughter Sylvia Weis, Amanda Seyfried. When his daughter, Sylvia, at a high-stakes poker game, Will impresses Wise by betting enormous amounts of time, risking his own life on every hand, and wins big, gaining access to Weiss's inner circle. During this scene, Weiss and Will have an important conversation about the nature of the time system. Weiss defends it as necessary and fair, arguing that if everyone had unlimited time, it would cause chaos, while Will argues that the system is designed only to protect the immortality of the rich at the cost of the poor's lives. Introduced around this point is Raymond Leon, Cillian Murphy, the timekeeper investigating Henry Hamilton's death. Leon is intelligent, relentless, and believes strongly in maintaining order. Later in the film, it is implied that Leon actually came from a poor background himself, which makes his dedication to enforcing the system even more complex. He represents someone who made it by following the rules and now defends them fiercely. Leon begins tracking Will through New Greenwich, suspecting him of theft and murder. To escape from Leon and the timekeepers, Will takes Sylvia hostage and flees with her back toward Dayton. At first, Sylvia is terrified and tries to escape multiple times. In one scene, she even jumps out of the moving car as she witnesses firsthand the extreme poverty and daily struggle for survival in Dayton, something she, as a rich woman, had never experienced. Her attitude changes. She becomes disturbed by how casually people in her world treat time and, by extension, human life. Will and Sylvia begin robbing time banks, including ones connected to Sylvia's own father, Philippe Weiss. In one key scene, they break into a heavily guarded vault and steal massive amounts of time, then distribute it to people in the poor zones, allowing them to survive and even cross zone boundaries freely for the first time. This causes panic among the wealthy elite and increases pressure on Leon and the timekeepers to capture them. There is also tension with Fortis and the Minutemen gang, who see Will and Sylvia's actions as an opportunity to steal time for themselves rather than to help others, leading to a violent confrontation between the two groups as Leon continues his relentless pursuit of Will. In one intense chase sequence, he ends up running critical instead of accepting help or stopping the chase. Leon continues, driven by his sense of duty. Ultimately, Leon's own clock reaches zero, and he dies alone in a tunnel, a symbolic moment, since he is a defender of the very system that ends up killing him too, showing that literally no one, not even those who enforce the rules, is truly safe from it. In the film's climax, Will and Sylvia plan their biggest heist yet, robbing Philip Weiss's central vault, which holds an enormous reserve of time, reportedly worth 1,000,000 years, enough to fundamentally destabilize the entire economy. They succeed, and instead of keeping the time for themselves, they distribute it freely across all the time zones, eliminating the toll barriers between rich and poor areas. This act triggers a massive shift in society. For the first time, poor citizens are seen crossing freely into wealthy zones, and the strict boundaries that kept the classes separate begin to collapse. In the final scene, Will and Sylvia, now essentially fugitives with unlimited time and no home to return to, continue their mission, implied to keep robbing time banks and redistributing wealth across the country. The ending is intentionally open and ambiguous. The system hasn't been completely destroyed, but the two of them have become symbols of rebellion against it.